Education Department Manager here at DHI, and I am so excited on behalf of myself and DHI to welcome you all this morning. Our presenter, Al Urbaniak, is so excited to be giving you this presentation this morning. He is the Knowledge Center Implementation Manager for Legion. He's also an active member and participant in both the Hollow Metal Manufacturers Association and the Steel Door Institute, and serves on UL's STP-10 committee. He also currently serves on several committees for both HMMA and SDI. He has published articles in several trade magazines and develops and conducts several training sessions for the industry and various trades. And so without further ado, I'm very happy, I would like to present to you Al Urbaniak. Also, I'd like to welcome you and let you know, you might already be aware of this, but it's very important to note that today's webinar will give you credit for 3 DHI CEP points. It will also be recorded. Handouts and additional information is available. You'll be notified via email, and there's the directions on the screen. Today's presentation will last 1 hour with a Q&A session at the end. You may submit all your questions via the chat question box, and we will try to get to them as best as we can. Please make sure that you are muted for today's session. Thank you so much, and I'd like to turn it over to Al.
Thank you, Hannah, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this. And I thank everybody on the phone, and I appreciate your involvement in taking the time to do this. Today's session is an overview of the Hollow Metal Manufacturers Association's technical literature, and we always refer to this as a technical manual for hollow metal. I'm going to give a broad overview of the information of where you can find it, what is included, and how to select the correct products for the application. We'll also talk about specifying the proper hollow metal door and frame and the processes used by HMMA to do this. Now, going through this, HMMA has published multiple standards and guide specifications along with technical tips focused on the proper installation and application of the product category. Now, in this, I will touch on all the standards. I can't do justification for all of them. It's just going to be a high-level review. Now, the thing we need to get across is the fact that this information is available for your use, for your application, and also help in not only specifying the proper hollow metal, but also finding information to help out on job site issues as they come up. Now, the information is all available. Everything I'm going to go through is available at hollowmetal.org. That is the HMMA site. HMMA is a division of NAAMM. That's the National Association of Architectural Metal Manufacturers. And when you get into hollowmetal.org, the key to the site really is that there's naturally the welcome screen, but in addition to that, on the left banner, there is information, and you go to the technical literature area. And once you do that and click on it, it takes you to all the standards that we are talking about today. And the key to this is all you have to hit or do is click on download the free PDF. And again, the information is totally free and available for anybody's use. Now, going through this, I'll start off with the standards that deal with really the product category and general information related to the product. Starting off with HMMA 800, this is basically an introduction and overview to hollow metal. And this standard covers a lot of the issues related to just basic hollow metal information. Starts off with a history of the product category and deals with custom hollow metal. And the term hollow metal as used in these publications refers to any of those components in a building construction that are made of cold formed steel sheet and are used in the fabrication of commercial hollow metal doors and frames. The variety of door designs available is limited only by the architect's ingenuity and the ability to design openings that are in accordance with the governing bodies, which are the building codes, and also within the limitations of the manufacturing processes. Now, in 800, there are details of various window wall constructions, included the archtop products. There's also a lot of details on the floor construction, that's the anchoring of the frames to the floor and different types of construction. Also, some details get into the connections of the different products as far as mullions, jambs, the frame material, basically. HMMA 801 is a glossary of terms used in the industry. This is one of the ANSI standards promulgated by HMMA, and it goes through the ANSI canvassing process for approval. So this is really reviewed by a lot of different industries. HMMA is basically a dictionary or a guideline for the terms used in this product category. Looking at this, there are descriptions of the components included in the openings, including various anchor types, the attachments, reinforcement, and different things like that. There's a detail in each of the items, followed with a actual description of the term being used or defined. Looking at hardware preps, there's a lot of information related to the basic builder's hardware items. It doesn't get into a lot of functionality or anything, but it is a terminology related to a location, dimensioning, and just terminology that's vital when you're dealing with your manufacturer. In addition to that, there's a lot of description of construction of different items. This includes items like door rabbets, door panel designs, and handing. All that information is pretty clearly defined. This document was recently reviewed, and it's constantly being evaluated for updates. Looking at HMMA 802, this is basically a review of hollow metal manufacturing. This gets into the different types of steel used, the different manufacturing processes. It's a good information tool just to see how different things are made. It's a very basic overview of the manufacturing process. In this, we talk about the different types of steel, from hot rolled all the way down to stainless, and it gets into some of the information on processing the steel. There's a lot of sections dealing with the manufacturing, and again, this is a high-level overview, and it does get into the shearing process. This is the first process, really, of manufacturing the hollow metal doors and frames. And the shearing process is the process that cuts large sheets of steel into the exact sizes required for door and frames, and also the componentry. The blanking and punching operation allows for the cutting of hardware preparations like your hinges, locks, concealed closers, along with cutouts for windows, louvers, and any other preparation that is required on the door or the frame. The forging process illustrated here is just basically a break form operation. But on cold form steel, it can be either break form, as shown here, which is used in frames, doors, and a lot of the componentry, or it can be the automated roll form processes, which take considerable tooling but automatically forms the product, basically. Welding processes are used to join two or more metal surfaces, and can be either the electric arc welding, which would include arc, MIG, or TIG processes. That's what's shown here. That's actually an arc weld there. Or it could be resistance welding, which would be spot or projection welding. Then getting into the finishing process. Illustrated here is grinding the steel, and that could be either grinding or buffing of welds. The grinding process could include polishing of stainless steel. The other finishing process would be either primer or finish paint of the product, electrostatically or hand sprayed. Those processes are covered in 802, and it's a good line or guideline for just general information. 803 is an overview of steel tables, and this is a detailed review of thicknesses of steel in either inch, metric, or gauge equivalents. Now, the term gauge is used a lot in our industry, and by architects they use it and everything, but the reality is that the term gauge is no longer really used in any of the ANSI or the government agencies. Gauge is just an archaic reference to the actual thickness of material. So you're actually, when you're talking government agencies or even with a lot of manufacturers, talking in either decimal imperial equivalents or metric thicknesses. 805 is a relatively new document. It deals with the selection and usage of hollow metal. It does get into a lot of the occupancy of the building based on IBC occupancy levels. It tries to be a guide for the proper selection of hollow metal itself. Now, in this document, there's some material covered about the performance, and HMMA establishes 6 levels of performance for door openings, and this ranges in different durability and operation requirements for the opening. Frequency of use is covered to help as a guideline in the selection process. And this correlates to how often the door is opened. And in this document on page 4, it explains the projected frequency of use and describes normal operation of the door as we consider it as we're designing and building the product. Opening abuse is also covered in this standard on page 4. And this is basically outlined and categorized into low, medium, high, and very high levels. Each level includes abuse and opening examples. Now, this information was really compiled and tabulated to kind of give a guideline to target the correct product for the correct opening. This document is really compiled a lot under the, not the guidelines, but to relate to the IBC building codes. And in this document, it is really divided or focused on the different occupancy levels or types of buildings described by IBC. So this goes anywhere from auditoriums down to schools and different gathering places. With that now, each occupancy level, that's the items I just talked about with IBC, is dealt with in a 2-page selection matrix. So you have the IBC occupancy group, and in this this explanation here, you're dealing with assemblies, and it gives you the type of building that is just shown as an example, and this is theaters and concert halls. So with this selection matrix, you do have a guideline for the openings, and then it breaks it down into the different types of door constructions, followed by notes which deal with specific targeted construction areas for inner city or rural or different types of applications. So it's pretty detailed evaluation. Moving on into 810, this is for hollow metal door construction, and it refers to a lot of different applications that doors and frames go through, and also the different types of cores. Now with that, there are basically 4 types of commercial construction for door openings, and HMMA deals only in the swing door application. You won't find any information on sliding, rolling, revolving, or any other door type of construction. The standard 810 goes into a lot of detail. It is really focused on the different door construction specification standards that I talked about a little bit in the beginning. And that's your different specifications, everything from light commercial down to detention security. And I will talk about that a little later in this presentation. In this standard, clearances and elevations are pretty well defined. You do have examples of door swing, everything from your single swing applications with your different handings, double egress to contra swing, and different items like that. So it's a pretty detailed review. Also covered in this standard is the door constructions. And in there, when we're talking door design, manufacturers, whether it's HMMA or SDI, talk about door designs. And the door design is basically the configuration of the product as far as glass lights, louvers go, the design of the product as you're walking up to it. Also covered in the standard are the different core constructions, which would be either steel stiffened, honeycomb, or the various foam constructions. 820 is a similar document, but it deals only with frame construction and goes into the different elevations and mitering capabilities. Looking at the details in this, it goes into some detail, again it's high level, on single swing, pairs, elevations with arch top or regular transom panels, along with sloped openings and square cutoff tops with either borrowed lights or frames. This document also gets into the various frame configurations, from the typical double rabbet or the single rabbet, and then into a lot of your custom profiles, which are pure, but they're not very prevalent. Also, a good evaluation or description details of the different anchors that are available by the manufacturers to match the different wall constructions. Miters are covered, cutoffs of the different profiles, the different types of miters, along with joints for your mullions, sill constructions, and even if you're getting into large transom sidelight openings where you require field splicing. General details are covered. 830 are hardware selections. Now this does not get into a lot of detail of hardware types or anything like that, but it does go into the broad spectrum of hinging hardware as it relates to door and frame constructions. And that could be your butt hinges, your continuous hinges, or your anchor hinges, pivots, etc. Also elaborates on latches and locks as they relate to the securing of the product. And again, it relates to these devices, how they relate to the hollow metal products. Exit devices, panic devices, there's a lot of information on that because it's a very broad product category. In addition to all your bolts, internal flush bolts or surface bolts, etc. So there's a lot of information. And finally, your closing hardware, which would include surface closers, concealed closers, auto operators, door stops, etc. 830 covers the custom HMMA hardware locations. In this publication, you have the spelled out dimensions, and again, this is for custom hollow metal. The key to this here in relationship to its main use, you do have the 5, 10, and equal hinge locations. All your latching hardware is based on knob or lever height rather than strike height. So there's a little difference between this and SDI locations. 840 is an installation standard, and I cannot do this document justice. Now, the first thing I'll say with this is next week, this same time, we'll be doing a webinar just on this document. This document is very critical. It's not only just a guideline for how to install the product, but there's a ton of information in this document related to job site storage, handling, and installation. In here, the storage is very critical. A major part of the installation problems that do occur relate directly back to the initial storage and handling by contractors. If this is not done correctly, you will have problems down the road. Spreaders, the shipping bars are the items that the product is shipped with that have to be removed prior to installation. They are replaced during the installation process with spreaders for installation to control the opening at the sill, at mid-height, or for large openings, tall openings, additional spreaders should be added. That information is covered along with details of the actual spreaders recommended. In masonry construction, you have two types of masonry construction. You have new construction, which would be laying up the block wall. Anchors are detailed, placement is detailed. Also, you have the existing wall applications, which is a total different anchoring process. It does get into your stud walls, which would be either steel or wood stud, and anchors are detailed out along with some information on wall construction. Finally, the plumbing and squaring of the opening is defined. Extremely critical information that contractors should be aware of, along with distribution and manufacturers. 841 is a review of tolerances. Now, these are mainly the manufacturing tolerances that HMMA members use and conform to. In there, you have your hardware locations naturally, which would not only be the vertical locations or the horizontal locations for certain hardware, but also cutout locations and tolerances. In addition to that, you have your frame profile dimensions, which is critical to make sure that the frame does accept the proper walls and does conform to requirements. Now, also on the door side, you do have all your dimensioning spelled out. Flatness is critical for a lot of the hardware and applications, along with actual squareness of the opening. Then finally, installation. We're very focused on the actual installation tolerances. And again, this is critical for long-term operation of not only the door and frame, but durability of hardware and long-term performance. 850 is a document, again, that I can't do justification on this. This is a very good reference tool and a broad overview of how the hollow metal products are listed, tested, and a lot of the approvals available. In this, a lot of the fire testing information is reviewed and documented, and again, it's a very good reference. Looking at this, there is a lot of information covered on testing and labeling. Label designs are covered. Now, a cautionary note on this, naturally, UL and Intertech are constantly reviewing their test processes and changing labels where manufacturers have to supply different products. So some of this information may be not totally in line with the current processes. This document is currently under review, and you should be seeing a new document within the next 12 months. Basic elevations are covered, showing the size limitations, showing the designs, along with your frame profiles and limitations for hourly ratings, hardware applications, etc. The hardware applications are spelled out. These are all in accordance, both the door frame design and hardware applications, with current NFPA pamphlet 80 requirements. Then we get into the door elevations, not only with basic size limitations, but also the device, the different applications for exit devices, along with the actual application of single swing, double egress, etc. And the frame elevations, the same type of data related to frames, whether it's single, double, with or without mullions, with or without hardware or hollow metal mullions, and then the different applications or elevations of the transmit sidelights. Now from there we move into the guide specifications. Now there are actual 7 guide specifications currently in publication. These are all in CSI format. They're downloadable from the web in either PDF format or MS Word format for an architect to use to modify. They're set up just like CSI specifications. They go everywhere from basic light-duty hollow metal into your different detention type products. Now these are, again, all ANSI promulgated standards. So they're not just HMMA, they're ANSI standards. And they're under a 5-year review process. These are the 7 documents. Looking at them, they're promulgated or developed in no particular order, so the numbering is not real logical. But in the commercial and institutional areas, you have HMMA 860, which deals with light commercial construction. 861 is for commercial and institutional construction with welded cores, that would be your steel stiffened cores. 867 is commercial and institutional construction dealing with laminated core construction. From there, dealing with security items, we do have a commercial security standard, 862, and then detention security standard, 863, which deals with detention, period, whether it's penitentiary or any type of enforcement. Then there's a standard 865 dealing with acoustical swing doors, and finally, commercial stainless steel products. So those are the 7 standards, specification standards. Now looking at this at a high level and reviewing them, 860 is light commercial. That's what I was saying earlier. Looking at it, the door construction can be either cold rolled or galvannealed, that's the face sheets. Looking at steel thicknesses for interior construction, the standards based on 032 minimum or 20 gauge. Exterior will be 042 or 18 gauge. The core construction for this specification is only steel stiffened with the stiffeners welded to the face sheets. And then the edges are either visible or they are the welded edge. So that's a basic outline of 860 construction, and it's light commercial. When you're looking at the frame construction, the steel stiffness or the steel thickness of the frame itself for either interior or exterior applications is 053 or 16 gauge. The miters on the frame can be specified as either KD or welded. Now moving from that, looking at 861, this is more the classic custom hollow metal specification. It is focused on commercial or your institutional type construction. That's focused more on the hardware institutional construction. I won't go through all this, but the areas that are different from 860. Now, this is an upgraded internal construction for durability. Your interior doors are 042 or 18 gauge construction. That's an upgrade. Exterior are 16 gauge or 053 construction. The core is still welded steel stiffeners, but the main difference is on the edge, where the edge is only a welded door edge. So interlock seams, etc., are not available. Your frame construction, the minimum is 053 or 16 gauge, or it could go up to 14 gauge depending on the applications. Your miters in this specification are always welded. Looking at 867, this is your laminated door construction. Apologize. Got to get rid of. Okay, I apologize for that. 867 is a laminated core construction. Again, it is for commercial or institutional. The differences here is your interior door, depending on job requirements, specification requirements, the minimum would be 032 or 20 gauge. Exterior doors could be 042 minimum. Now, the core for these are laminated core options, which would be your honeycomb, styrene, any of those cores, or it could be a laminated steel stiffener. In this core construction, edges could be visible or welded. Your steel construction would be an 053 minimum or 16 gauge. Now, in this construction, miters can be either KD or welded. So there's a lot of construction differences in this laminated core construction. Reviewing this, your 860 is light-duty construction. It is steel stiffened welded with visible or welded seams. 861 is your classic commercial hollow metal spec. That would be steel stiffened welded to the face sheets, and your edge is totally welded. Looking at 867, it's all your laminated cores, including steel stiffened, and your edge seams can be visible or welded. So that's a high review of your commercial core or your commercial constructions. Commercial security and detention security, these are two different constructions. Your commercial security deals with any type of commercial building, store, back doors, any areas which are more susceptible to crime rather than your regular commercial institution construction. Then you have your detention security 863, which deals with actual incarceration. Now 862, it's laid out in the same way, the CSI format. In this, your interior construction starts at 067, which is 14 gauge. Your exterior start at a 12 gauge. I'm sorry, your face sheets, not your frame. So that's upgraded construction from the commercial construction. Your frame construction, which is still hollow metal, it is 14 gauge or 067. All miters for this product are specified as continuously or profile welded. In the commercial standard, there are 6 levels of, in the commercial security standard, there are 6 levels of construction. That's for the security ratings, and they are spelled out along with all the options as far as testing of forced entry, static load, impact, edge crush, and jam wall stiffness. So there's a lot of information on this and a lot of testing devoted to this product for intrusion. Detention security, again, it's upgraded construction. Internally, the cores are stiffened a lot more. Your face construction, the gauges are in line with commercial construction as a minimum, commercial security construction. Along with the frame, it is a minimum of 14 gauge. Now in this, again, this is for incarceration. This is prison type construction. Your manufacturers participating in this construction standard are kind of limited compared to all of HMMA membership. We do have 865, which deals with acoustical construction. In here, again, it's CSI format. It does get into your different gauges of face sheet. Your core construction is totally different based on your acoustical requirements. Edge construction will pretty much vary with the manufacturers, along with your frame construction. That'll vary depending on the STC requirements in place. When it comes down to commercial secure or stainless steel, again, this is commercial, it's not residential, but the standard spells out the different types of stainless from 361 or 316 to 304, depending on corrosion requirements. Your finishes are spelled out, and your core is always laminated for this construction, and your frame thickness varies from your regular hollow metal. I'm going to apologize if there's any noise coming through this part of the presentation. There's a mowing crew that happened to show up outside my office, so I apologize if there's interference here. The commercial stainless products, the designs, the application, the finishes will vary depending on the job requirements and the specification developed. Now from here, HMMA currently publishes 5 technical tips or technical notes. These documents, like the other standards, are constantly in review for updating. These again are available on the website. A main part of the focus of these is trying to give the channel actual guidelines in how to best use the hollow metal. Looking at this and specifying, there's a standard or a tech note on defining undercuts, because there's a lot of confusion on this when it gets into your floor coverings or into any type of tile. So this is a clear description of undercuts, and a lot of details are involved in this just for guidance. Grouting of hollow metal frames, this is a critical tech note, and there are problems related to grouting, and this was developed to give guidance to distribution and actual anybody ordering or using the product to work with your contractors to make sure that the proper application is achieved. There's description of why grouting is added, and it's not a requirement for fire rating or anything. There is clear definition that of the type of grout used or required, and if the proper grout is not used, the proper back coating is not applied or specified, the frames are going to rot out very quickly. And this gives you guidelines for your contractors as to what they should do. There's a tech note on continuously welded frames, and this does elaborate on the continuous welded, face welded, and knockdown corners. Now, in this, it's a good document. It shows the difference in everything. However, the key part of this is to make sure you're working with your architects correctly, and they are really specifying the correct type of miter and the correct type of weld, so that you don't get boxed into the incorrect hardware, miters being specified or supplied, because there's a lot of money difference between a continuous and a face weld product. And that's trying to safeguard distribution and manufacturing from supplying the wrong product. There's a tech note on glazing, and this is a critical tech note, really. This gets into the different caulking that is required, particularly for exterior openings. It does get into frames, the elevations, borrowed lights, and window walls. And again, this is a good tool for your architects to really determine how to really caulk the frames, how to seal them, particularly for exterior applications. Painting hollow metal, this gets into field painting. A lot of information is covered. It Gets into the proper storage again, and I can't overemphasize storage of the product at job sites. It does talk about repairing the finishes, primers and top coats, so there's a lot of information here that is valuable. And finally, there's a text summary. It's HMMA 890. This is not updated quite frequently. However, it does give an overview of ANSI standards, door and frame construction, and fire ratings. So there's a lot of information. It is very condensed. It's based on the CSI format specifications that we did review. And it does get into fire ratings. Now, again, I have to caution everybody that this is really a condensed summary of the products available and the fire ratings, and this does change quite often. Then finally gets into the construction, whether it is the miters, the anchors, field splicing, hardware preparations, hardware locations. That's all spelled out in this document. So now that's a very quick overview, and again, I can't do justice to all of the information that is covered in the standard or in the tech manual, the Hollow Metal Manual. I have to point out that it is all available on the web, and we welcome everybody to browse that. There's a lot of information included. All you do is click on the tech or the information tab, and that takes you to downloading, whether it's the standards, the specifications, or the technical tips. So that's the information. And Hannah, I'm going to kind of turn it back to you now on questions, trying to field any kind of questions that are available.
And we are waiting patiently for some questions. So everyone out there, please feel free to type your question at this time in the chat box. And Al will be more than happy, I'm sure, to answer your questions. Let's see if we have anybody. Looks like it's thinking, in the thinking mode, Al.
Just for guidelines and using this again, the website carries a lot of information. The website is under development, and we should be seeing a new website with better navigation and upgraded links. Probably in the third quarter of this year, so that will change. On the website, you do have the different divisions of HMMA, and that gets into expanded metal, flagpoles, a lot of different types of construction which could be required or needed. It is a different site than the Steel Door Institute site. A lot of the information is related, but it is totally different. And the technical information on standards and tech tips is pretty deep. Any kind of questions coming in, Hannah?
No, you've done such a wonderful presentation that nobody's asking any questions, or are they too shy?
Either that or I put them all to sleep.
No. We have a wonderful audience out there. And
okay. I don't know if you want to just leave this open for questions, Hannah, or kind of wrap it up.
I think we could probably wrap it up if anybody, last call, anybody want to type in a question real quick? Otherwise, Al, I think we can wrap it up.
Okay. We can do this before the mowing crew really gets loud, so the timing is great. And just as a reminder to everybody, next week, that's Wednesday the 27th at 11 o'clock, same time, same place, I will go through HMMA 840, which is the guide specification for installation and storage. Again, the majority of field problems really relate back to improper storage and installation. So that's a good session, and hopefully we'll get a lot of participation and everybody's invited. Now from there, I want to thank everybody for attending this on behalf of HMMA and also Allegiant, which is my employer. Thank you for taking the time. and I appreciate the opportunity to present this. Hannah, thank you to DHI for giving me the opportunity.
And thank you so much, Al, for your time and for next week, too. Thank you so much for today. I also, just a real quick reminder for next week's webinar, you will need to register, and hopefully you will get an invitation sometime real soon. But again, thank you so much on behalf of DHI and myself, Al. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Have a wonderful week.